Morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTubers. This is Jerry Diamond with How to Get Out of Babylon. If you want to get out of Babylon, you need to have your spiritual life in order. If you come out of Babylon, if you think you're coming out of Babylon just because you're moving your physical location without changing your spiritual temperament and your spiritual condition, you are fooling yourself. You're selling yourself down the river. You're committing suicide. And too many people here are doing that. I'm talking about right here in my own neck of the woods. People are just afraid for their own lives. They're only afraid for their own safety. They're not afraid for anything other than their own ass, their own life. So, and they got to read every label, and they got to be afraid of everything under the sun. Not gonna happen. Fear will kill you. Men's hearts failed them for fear. Don't you remember that from Matthew 24, 25? Men's hearts failing them for fear. Well, that's what's going to happen with you. If you're a chicken, if you're afraid of everything, don't come here. We need brave people here. We need intelligent people here. We need people who have balls. There are more women with balls around here than there are men. Sorry, I'm just saying the truth. That's how it is. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. That's, who is that? Paul Harvey? And that's the way it is. Yeah, I think it was Paul Harvey. Maybe Howard Cosell, but, you know. Anyway, yeah, if you're afraid of everything, you know, in Braveheart, William Wallace makes a statement, cowards die 100 times or maybe 1,000 times before their death. A brave man dies only once. I'd rather die once than 1,000 times because I'm afraid of everything. There are people here who are afraid of labels, afraid of chemicals, afraid of what's in the air, afraid of chemtrails, afraid of clouds, afraid of frequency, afraid of this, afraid of that, and afraid of the other thing. And they listen to far too much fear-mongering, internet fear-mongering. Oh, they're going to do this, they're going to do this, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing the other thing. Why don't you talk about what God is doing? Almighty God is doing a lot of things in this world. And they can't see anything that God's doing, any of His plan. They're just afraid of the powers that be, the powers that think they be, is how I say it, because they're going to be taken down by those who are nothings. You know, I'm a nothing. He used the nothings of the world to take down the wise, the foolish of the world to take down the wise, and the weak things of the world to take down the powerful, and the nothings of the world to take down the things that think they be. That He brings to nothing the things that are. Okay, number one. That's the chapter title, sorry. Chapter 17. This is, Daniel's getting ready to go out and do the initiation test for the Cobra Club. And he hasn't come to his senses yet, but he's still not writing the spirit flyer because he signed an oath with a drop of blood. A blop of blood. A drop of blood. And he's writing the Goliath Super Wings, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So tonight is his initiation test with Barry Smedlow and the Cobra Club. So that night, Daniel rode through the dark streets of Centerville, avoiding every street light. Though one part of him felt excited to finally be doing his initiation test, another part of him was scared stiff. His mother thought he was at home asleep in bed. Barry and the new boy Jason were waiting at the edge of the town park. Jason nodded at Daniel and looked down. Sorry about calling you all those names, Jason said. I guess I was wrong about you. That's okay, Daniel said. He didn't want to think about the fight. He had taken a nap that afternoon, trying to forget the anger that had come spilling out. The tension and rage inside himself had scared Daniel, so he had pushed it out of his mind, thinking only about the initiation test. Jason was carrying the brown paper bag. Daniel was glad that he didn't have to carry the shaving cream and toilet paper and the mystery package. Ready to go? Barry asked with a sneaky grin. You bet, Jason said. He held up the bag. Are you sure there's no one around that comes around like a night watchman or anything? Daniel asked. Are you kidding? Barry asked. There's nothing to watch at the town pool. Let's go. The boys took off on their bikes. Daniel brought up the rear while Jason and Barry rode side by side, whispering. When they got to the pool and clubhouse, they laid their bikes down. The night grass was already soaked wet with dew. Come on, Barry whispered. The boys ran, bent over toward the chain-link fence that surrounded the pool. Off in the distance, the dog was barking and barking. They stopped at the fence. Daniel thought it looked awfully high. I'll help you guys over, Barry said. He gripped his hands together. Jason put the bag down, stepped into Barry's hands, and lunged for the top of the fence. He stayed on the top while Barry handed him the package. Then Jason dropped down to the other side. Daniel took a deep breath and did the same thing. Daniel picked up the brown paper bag that Jason had dropped when he jumped over. He was surprised by the weight. This seems awfully heavy, Daniel said. He looked at the sack. There were still 2 rolls of toilet paper and a can of shaving cream. The other mystery sack was the heavy thing. What's in the bag? That's the ultimate decoration, Barry whispered. Jason knows what to do with it. Now get going. Daniel took a roll of toilet paper and strung it over the fence, while Jason took a roll and put it on the diving board and other places. When they were finished with that, they rode on the sidewalk with a shaving cream. All this so I won't be blank, Daniel muttered to himself, but he went along. He was relieved when the can of shaving cream emptied out. That's when Jason got the paper sack that looked like a bag of flour. Put it in the deep end, Barry instructed from the other side of the fence. That's where the main pool filter is located. It will spread out from there. Spread it out from where? Spread it out from there. Spread out what? Daniel asked. Just shut up and get over the fence, Barry commanded. Daniel did as he was told. He climbed carefully over the side of the fence and dropped back down. Jason ran over to the other boys and climbed over the fence much faster than Daniel. Soon all 3 were on their bikes, pedaling as fast as they could. When they got to the town square, Daniel split off to ride home. Meet me at my house tomorrow morning, Barry called out softly. Daniel nodded. He rode home and left his bike in the backyard. Then he climbed up the tree and went inside his open window. He heard the clock downstairs strike 1. He was soon fast asleep. I looked back and it didn't say that how it got out, but he climbed down a tree obviously and then got the bike out of the garage and he left the bike in the backyard. So I just checked on that. I didn't remember, but I did not see that it said that he climbed the fence or climbed down the tree, but he did. Standard way to get out of houses. My friend's daughter did over here constantly. Daniel ate breakfast without saying much that Friday morning. He left the house on his Goliath Super Wing soon after his mother went to work. He wanted to ride by the park and pool, but rode instead toward Barry's house. Drinky time. And I'm going to have a special treat. I'm going to have a beer. Ginger beer. This stuff has got pepper in it. Cayenne pepper. Really good. If you leave it at the top of your mouth, it'll go back into your sinuses, the vapors. Yummy stuff. I found it because I was looking for stuff with quinine. It's Q beer, you know, it's got quinine in it. One of the therapies or one of the remedies for, you know, this latest scamdemic thing. Like quinine cures malaria. Well, too much quinine, you'll have malaria symptoms. Homeopathic. Like cures like. Anyway, the pepper can't be bad for you. Okay, so anyway, back to the story here. Six bicycles were parked on Barry's front lawn when Daniel rode up. He hopped off his bike. Just then Barry Smedlow opened the garage door. He smiled at Daniel. Danny, you're in the club all the way, Barry said. You passed the test with flying colors. The pool decorations are fantastic. Jimmy rode by there this morning. It's the biggest, pinkest bubble bath in town. What? Daniel asked. His heart began to race. But I never... You should see it, Red, Jimmy said with a big grin. It looks like a great big sink full of pink soap suds. They must be 3 foot thick. Let's go, Barry said. Seeing is believing, but by now it won't be suspicious if we ride our bikes over there. My party's going to be a huge success tonight. They'll never fix the pool up in time for that stupid Craig and Cindy. The boys yelled in glee and hopped on their bicycles. Daniel was the last one to get on his bike. As he followed the pack, his mind was racing with 1,000 thoughts. The boys began talking excitedly as they got near the Centerville Park. A police car was parked by the pool and Daniel felt his heart sink. Then he saw the suds. There was a great pink clouds of suds where the pool was supposed to be. The Cobra Club rode straight up to the chain-link fence, which surrounded the pool. Probably 50 or more children had come to see the sight. No one even seemed to notice the strings of toilet paper and shaving cream spattered here and there. Will you look at that? Barry whispered, folding his arms across his chest. That's been my most brilliant plan to date. That's even better than the time you wrote on the school walls with the spray paint, Alvin grunted. You shut up your mouth, Barry warned. Then he winked at Daniel. That was a successful operation too, but nothing like this. Sheriff Kramer was inside the pool area talking to the pool manager, Mrs. Wagstaff. She was motioning to the pool and her face was clearly quite upset. She had a dark brown pulpy-looking mess in her hands. Daniel realized that she was probably holding the remains of the brown paper sack that Jason had dumped in the pool. Barry walked toward the front gate. The other boys followed. A hastily scratched sign was already posted on the bulletin board. Pool closed due to vandalism. No party tonight. Isn't that a shame, Barry said to the other boys. He winked at Daniel. Of course there will be a pool party at my house. At least for those kids in the top 200. Here comes the sheriff. We better beat it, Doug said. What for? Barry asked. He didn't have any proof it was us, and no one is going to squeal. Daniel watched the sheriff coming. He opened the pool gate and then closed it. He looked at Barry and the other boys, then walked on through the crowd of children to his car. He seemed sad, Daniel thought. He wondered what Susan thought, or if she even knew about the pool yet. With the sheriff's car gone, the excitement had died down. You could only look at a big pile of soap suds so long. This place is a bore, Barry announced. Let's get out of here. As they rode away, the other members of the club kidded Daniel and Jason about what a great job they had done. Daniel wasn't sure what to say. Barry led the boys to the toy store. He opened the door and went inside. Daniel brought up the rear. I've got a customer, Barry said to Mrs. Happy. He took Daniel by the arm and brought him over to the big board. I told Daniel we would stop him from being rank blank, and I meant it. Going to give the big boy another try, are you? The old woman asked and winked. Daniel pulled his number card out of his pocket. He slipped it into the slot. I'll buy you, Barry said and got a quarter out of his pocket. He dropped it into the money slot and waited. Go ahead and say it, Red. Big board, on the wall. How do I rank among them all? Daniel said in a weak voice. The big board flashed into action, spewing numbers and letters in bright purple lights. The bell rang twice as the words froze in the darkness. Daniel Bailey, level 2, rank 1, score 1,003 points. Congratulations to the new number 1. Daniel's number 1, Jimmy Roundhouse said in surprise. Yeah, and he's on level 2, Alvin asked. No one else in town is on level 2, are they? Barry Smedlow's mouth dropped open as he read the listing over again. He can't be number 1. I'm number 1, Barry blurted out. The president of the Cobra Club looked at Mrs. Happy. Well, the big board giveth and the big board taketh away, Mrs. Happy said with a sigh. But it can't do that, Barry replied. The owner of the toy store wasn't listening to him, though. Congratulations, my boy, the one woman said and pinched Daniel's cheek. To go from rank blank to number 1 is quite an achievement indeed. But how could that be, Barry demanded. He looked at Daniel and frowned. He's on level 2, the old woman said simply. Anyone on level 2 is ahead of those on level 1. Didn't I tell you that? But how can he be on level 2, Barry asked. I imagine it's because he has a Goliath Super Wings bicycle. They already said that earlier. The old woman said, like I've been telling you, they are very special, powerful bikes. Besides, Daniel here is very smart, capable boy. He's also quite a good fighter when push comes to shove. Big Board likes those qualities in an individual. Remember, it's survival of the fittest these days. Survival of the fittest. Yeah, whatever. Daniel pulled his number card out of the big board. A large number 1 was on the card, and on the other side, the reflection of his face was wearing a big smile. Daniel looked up and saw that Barry Smedlow wasn't smiling at all. We better go, Daniel said, seeing the anger on the bigger boy's face. The other boys nodded. They all went outside. As they got out on the sidewalk, they looked back inside and saw Barry arguing with the old woman. The other boys slapped Daniel on the back. See you at the party tonight, they said. The news about Daniel being the new number 1 spread like wildfire around the town. Cindy Myers and Craig Banks called off their pool party just like Barry had planned. Of course, Barry hadn't planned on being knocked out of his top standing in the point system. Even though he'd only dropped back to number 2, he fumed all day long as he got ready for his pool party. No one was more happy for Daniel's rise on the point system than his mother. She'd been glowing since she heard the news. I knew we'd get things back the way they used to be, Mrs. Bailey said proudly. She drove Daniel and Denise to Barry's house for the party that night. My 2 kids are winners all the way. You would have thought I won $1 million or something, Daniel muttered to himself. Daniel felt more than a little confused by the sudden rise on the point system. Even though Mrs. Happy had told him that would eventually get to the top rank, he never really quite believed it. On the one hand, he was happy to be accepted, but deep inside he knew he had betrayed a part of himself by signing the no-use clause on his Spirit Flyer. He was even more confused about the party. Children and other kids that had totally avoided him were now stopping on the back and acting like they had been friends with Daniel all along. Though he liked the attention at first, Daniel wondered if they were just hoping for some of his friendship points. Many of these same children had ridiculed him the day before at soccer practice. The more compliments Daniel got, the less he liked them. Barry was friendly to Daniel, but through gritted teeth. Mrs. Happy had explained the situation to the president of the Cobra Club several times that morning. He found it hard to accept that owning a super Goliath super wings qualified Daniel for a level 2 standing. The old woman had been hard to pin down exactly on how some of the finer points of the point system actually worked. Barry finally quit arguing when he saw his own point total begin to drop before his eyes. He knew that if he complained too much, it only made things worse. The former number one had other things to worry about anyway. He had gathered the officers of the Cobra Club in the garage to discuss the tournament the next day. Another boy was also in the meeting. Daniel had seen the boys go into the garage. He was curious and followed them. He walked into the garage but stopped when he heard the other boys talking. Shouldn't Daniel be here? Jimmy asked. After all, things have changed since he's the new number one. I don't care what the Limpy Gimpy's number is, Barry snarled. He's still not an officer. Besides, I didn't come back here to talk about him. I'll get my rank back, just you wait. In the meantime, we have to take care of tomorrow's game. That's why I brought Robert here, since he's the goalie for the Wildcats. Daniel paused and listened. He wasn't surprised that they didn't invite him to the meeting, but he was curious about who the boy named Robert was attending. Why the boy named Robert was attending the secret meeting of the Cobra Club. We've got to be our superstar, the superstar team, Barry said. And Robert here has agreed to be our insurance, just like the other guys on the other teams. He's already been getting paid in money and points. I'm also throwing in a combo gizmo into the deal just to show him a nice guy. But I wanted us to be sure he makes it look good, like he's not cheating. Not like he's cheating, you know. He's going to be cheating, but he doesn't want to make it look like he's cheating. Daniel strained his ears to catch every word. Apparently, Barry had used money from the Cobra Club treasury to pay off the goalie on the opposing team. And from what Barry hid at, this wasn't the first time that he had made this arrangement. Daniel hid behind a shelf as Robert left. He could still hear the other boys talking. Why are you going to give him a combo gizmo too? Jimmy asked after Robert was gone. Because he wouldn't make a deal without one thrown in, Barry said, but he'll only get it after we make the superstar team. Of course, I didn't say I would give him a combo gizmo that worked. I dropped one on the sidewalk the other day, and now it's got a funny rattle inside. That's the one I'm giving to Robert. The other boys began laughing. Daniel began to limp away. That's when he knocked a paint can off the shelf. The other boys surrounded him in an instant. Well, if it isn't number one, trying to snoop in on a secret club officers meeting, Barry snarled. Daniel's face turned red. How much did you hear, Red? Jimmy demanded. Enough, Daniel said. He bent down to pick up the paint can. Well, you might as well know anyway, Barry replied. You're already in on the pool stuff. Just keep your mouth shut and do as I say. We'll make the superstar team, get the free prizes, not to mention the free memberships out at the country club. Danny Boy wants the same thing we want, don't you? Sure, Daniel said without much enthusiasm. I thought so, Barry replied. Now let's get back to the party. Just remember, after the tournament, we'll have a party no one will forget. The boys all shouted and howled and ran back inside the house. Daniel stood by the garage. He took the number card out of his pocket and stared at it quietly. You've got it made now, the reflected face said softly. By tomorrow night, you'll be the superstar of your dreams. Okay. End of story. End of chapter. Okay. Well, good night. See if anybody's on. Bing, 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 bing. One. No comments. Come on. Gad. There you go. The earth remains flat and motionless. Duh. Hey, Graham Bennett, how you doing, guy? I don't know if you listened to this whole story or not, but it'd be nice if you did. Especially if you have children. This is a really good story for children. My children still remember it when I read it to them in Denver. Like 95 or so. That's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. My son and daughter still remember it. My younger kids, I think they read it when we moved to Missouri. I haven't gotten a definitive answer on that. My middle son remembers, and he thinks my younger daughter, read some of it to them, was reading it anyway. And she remembered the first two books, so she was a little tyke back then, probably 6, 7, and she remembers the first two books. They were familiar with her. They were familiar to her already when she started reading them again. And I think she read them when we moved to Missouri, so I don't know for sure. But anyway, good books, good series. Talk about spiritual warfare and the fact that you have a snake stuck in the back of your head and chains around your neck, and you just don't see them, you don't feel them, you don't see them. So they're allegorical, yes. It's a story with a meaning, a spiritual meaning behind it. So anyway, hey Grant, yeah, the earth is flat and motionless, I know. I've got 300 playlists on that subject. So a number of men I know they think they're scientific, they think they have a really strong science background, and they think I'm an idiot. Well, that's fine. Someday we'll all know the truth. I do not believe the earth is flat. I don't think you do either. not believe the earth is flat because I can think, I can look at facts with my own eyes, pictures, photographs, video. I can look at them with my own eyes and I can assess the data, what I'm seeing with my own eyes, with my own brain. So I don't believe the earth is flat. I know the earth is flat. And they can make fun of me all they want, that's fine. They can mock God. You realize people that believe the earth is a globe don't think that God did anything on day 2 of creation. What did he do on day 2 of creation? He created the firmament. The only thing he did. If you read the word rakia, the Hebrew description of the word, he hammered it out like a brass mirror. Russia and America fired all kinds of nuclear missiles at the firmament after going to Antarctica, okay? Expedition to Antarctica. A combined Russian and American expedition after World War II went to Antarctica. They came back with their tail between their legs, beat their butts by the Nazis. They heard, you hear about flying saucers and everything else, but they came back and they started firing missiles, nuclear weapons at the firmament, at the sky. And if you look at it, it looks like a shotgun that's splattered, like a bullet splattering off of something up there. Every I don't know if I recall, you can see video of it still, I think, to this day, maybe on YouTube, I don't know. Anyway, it looks like splattered rounds being fired, impact and then just a fanning out, splattering out. So they tried to break through the firmament, they didn't succeed. Anyway, all right, good night, God bless.